Tonight on ELN Local News.
West Coast wildfires. We speak with an ELN student thousands of miles from her home as her family faces both a wildfire and the ongoing coronavirus pandemic.
Concerns over trafficking. We address recent concerns from students about suspicious activity around the Burlington Target.
And outdoor science labs, how science classes are adapting to the pandemic.
Tonight, Monday, September 14th, 2020.
ELN Local News starts right now.
Live from the Jane and Brian Williams studio at ELN University School of Communications, you're watching ELN Local News.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Brian Ray.
And I'm Margaret Faust. Tonight, the West Coast is continuing to battle several wildfires stretching from Southern California into Washington State. ELN sophomore Claire Morrissey has a home right outside Yosemite National Park in California. Morrissey says that her second community in Bass Lake is currently under evacuation orders, and she is worried about the wooden home.
It's scary. I mean, I obviously grew up going to that house, and it would be weird to see it all just burn to the ground. And then they have to put it right back up.
Morrissey says this wildfire is posing an even greater challenge for her family during the coronavirus pandemic.
It's just an added stressor for them, and I don't know, makes their lives more difficult. It's weird. I was talking to my sister earlier this morning. She was like, we can't have dance practice outside because they can't do it in person anyway. So it's just makes things more difficult because things that have been moved outside can no longer even be moved outside.
Morrissey, who lives 30 minutes south of San Francisco, says her family has decided to leave the Bay Area and spend some time in San Diego to escape the low air quality. Today, President Donald Trump visited Sacramento, California, where he received a briefing from local and federal fire and emergency personnel. From Wilmington, Delaware, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden addressed the wildfires and criticized Trump's refusal to acknowledge the climate crisis. Today, ELN University reported 4 new coronavirus cases, contributing to the estimated 12 active cases on campus. These additional cases have led to 91 students in isolation, a new record.
Off campus, Alamance County reported 15 new cases, and North Carolina has 845 new cases. Cases in the state continue to slowly decline. For the latest coronavirus numbers anytime, visit elonnewsnetwork.com/coronavirus. After her roommate tested positive for COVID-19, ELN freshman Josephine McWhorter was forced into quarantine last week. She says the school isn't allowing her to get tested for the virus until this Wednesday, but McWhorter believes a test will provide a blanket of security, even though she's asymptomatic.
I'd love to have that just a surety that I am fine, or if I have it, I would definitely like to know, to tell my parents, tell my family, and kind of just situate myself, get myself in order. But just that kind of not knowing is a little uncomfortable.
So why does McWhorter have to wait? We contacted the Alamance County Health Department, who says the state health department recommends waiting 6 days from the last day of exposure before getting tested. This is based off of a study from Johns Hopkins that shows a high false negative rate in the initial days after contact with a positive case.
English professor Paula Patch is in quarantine after a family member tested positive for COVID-19 last week. Before this, Patch had been operating all of her classes in person. She had plans for students to learn remotely, but never thought that she would have to use them.
I still felt like I didn't know what to do. It was just a weird moment. I really wanted somebody to reaffirm to me what the steps were that I needed to take, and who I needed to call, and where we needed to go.
Patch quickly notified the English department of her situation with a plan to transfer 60 of her students to remote learning. Within a day, all of her classes were being held over Zoom. In an effort to make this a positive experience for her students, Patch says she hopes to bring a different perspective on COVID-19 to her students.
I don't want anyone to feel stigmatized. I don't want anyone to feel like they can't not only say that they've been exposed or have the virus. I also don't want them to feel like they can't ask for help. And I don't want them to feel like they have to pretend like nothing is happening.
Patch will be in quarantine for another week, but says she is eager to get back into the classroom once it is safe for her to do so.
Some ELN students are sharing stories online about being followed around Target or seeing notes left on their car windshields while on their weekly shopping trips, prompting a larger conversation about safety in the area. Many local students are voicing concerns about human trafficking, something Burlington and Alamance County struggles with. Lauren Singles has the story.
I could see from pretty far away that there was something on my car, and I always stay really up to date with everything that they're using now for sex trafficking, so I knew, I was like, oh no, there's a note on my car.
ELN senior Erin Cassidy is one of a handful of ELN students who are sharing concerns that suspicious activities around the Burlington Target could be connected to human trafficking. Cassidy says after finding the note, she called her concern into Target and the Burlington Police Department.
I told him what happened, and I said that the reason I was calling is because the note resembled a lot of what I've seen for sex trafficking, and I just wanted them to be aware of it.
Burlington Special Victims Unit Detective Alex Shockley specializes in investigating human trafficking. He says though there have been trafficking issues in Burlington before, so far they have not found evidence that recent events are connected to a ring.
That's not to say that they're not here, because traffickers do a very good job of hiding their activities. But again, after the investigations that we've been able to do, we don't have any type of concern that's readily apparent.
Shockley says in a lot of cases, people out shopping may be approached by panhandlers, people who hand out flyers for different causes or ask for money, rather than traffickers. Shockley warns to be aware on social media, as many traffickers reach out to potential victims online.
They'll message somebody and say, hey, I think you're really pretty. I think you would be great for this. I've got a job opportunity for you. And then what ends up happening, if they accept that opportunity, that's when they can get sucked into that situation of, that involuntary servitude, that sexual servitude, again, and that can happen very quickly.
According to ELN professor Casey DiRienzo, who teaches economics of human trafficking, the issue is a lot more prevalent than people may think. Certain factors put even small areas like Alamance County and Burlington at risk.
It's got two pieces to, at least right off the bat, to the puzzle there. You've got the income inequality, and you've got I-40 and truck stops and that ease of movement.
ELN University Campus Police Sergeant Joel Thomas recommends going out in pairs as a way to stay safe, but to always let someone know if you need to go out alone.
And let your friends know. If you do have to, which we don't suggest, but if you do go out by yourself, try to let somebody know where you're going.
Lauren Singles, ELN Local News.
For more on this story, make sure to pick up a copy of The Pendulum this Wednesday.
Today, U.S. News and World Report ranked ELN number 88 among national universities out of 389 schools for 2021. This ranking is down 4 spots from the 2020 rankings, where ELN was ranked 84. ELN was also ranked second in excellence in undergraduate teaching and number 10 for the most innovative universities. For more information, visit our website at elonnewsnetwork.com. And up next, why some performing arts majors say they're frustrated about the new campus rec regulations.
I'll tell you if it's going to be a nice week after the break.
Physical Plant has made changes to heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems across campus in an attempt to reduce the spread of COVID-19 at ELN. Annemarie Eisner tells us more.
It's all around us. Literally, the air we breathe. This year, ELN's heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems have been upgraded to maximize airflow in every university building, according to Assistant Vice President of Physical Plant Tom Flood. Flood also says university buildings are now equipped with medical-grade air filters. The new filters have a minimum efficiency reporting value of 13, compared to a residential-grade filter with an MERV rating of 3 to 5. A higher rating means finer filtration, or less particles getting through. According to Dr. Jeffrey Hatcher with the Cone Health Regional Center for Infectious Disease, while air ventilation and filtration can be helpful, it is secondary to social distancing.
We think that aerosolized spread for this virus is unlikely, makes that seem a little bit less important in terms of spread, in terms of having these different kinds of filters.
Hatcher says wearing a mask and remaining 6 feet apart are the most important things to do, especially in closed rooms.
Being in classrooms, it's really incumbent on the people who are in those classrooms to do a good job of social distancing when they're in those enclosed spaces.
With all of the changes on campus, freshman Megan Malone says she does not feel uncomfortable in classrooms.
I think they are taking a lot of precautions with like wiping down desks and being far apart, so it doesn't really bother me much.
Flood says that although staff with physical plant have taken measures to improve airflow and humidity in university buildings, much responsibility still lies with individuals to social distance and wear their masks. Annemarie Eisner, ELN Local News.
For more on this story, pick up a copy of this week's Pendulum on Wednesday.
Some students are speaking out about the new changes to campus recreation and wellness after the gym reopened under Governor Cooper's Phase 2.5 last week. Arliss Chandler has more.
Campus Recreation and Wellness had a successful reopening last week, filling reservation times and holding over 20 group fitness classes. But that didn't come without complaint. A picture posted on Instagram of an indoor group fitness class caused ELN senior Cara DiPietro to comment on the post. She and many other performing arts students were frustrated by the lack of masks.
It upset a lot of us because it came off as like very elitist, very disrespectful, especially when there are people who are like following these policies and staying in their 10 by 10 square in a class, doing the exact same amount of exercise and effort, who are wearing the masks.
DiPietro was unaware of the reopening guidelines before seeing the post and says prior to the pandemic, the Performing Arts Department frequented the gym facilities.
We have a huge fitness culture in our major specifically because in order to do what we do, you have to be physically and mentally in the best state that you can be. And we're not going right now. Like a lot of us aren't, and we're still maintaining that same level of fitness.
Group fitness classes this semester are being held indoors, outdoors, and virtually. Classes held outside are spaced 8 to 10 feet on all sides around each student, and if students have proper spacing, those that feel comfortable removing their masks can do so. ELN junior Lissy Shortall has taught both indoors and outdoors this semester and says she feels very safe.
Again, it is a personal comfortability thing. If people didn't feel comfortable going to our classes, I don't think that they would sign up in the first place, but we did want to offer a few different options for people to stay healthy and well at ELN.
Ellis Chandler, ELN Local News.
Kat Beal, the instructor who was pictured in the Instagram post, declined to comment. To register for group fitness classes, sign up using IM League's app or website. Students at ELN Law are now calling for the removal of Louis DeJoy from the ELN University Board of Trustees. First-year ELN student Charles Deloitte wrote a letter condemning DeJoy's actions as the United States Postmaster General. He says he couldn't sleep at night knowing his university was being represented by someone who he says is harmful to democracy through changes made to the U.S. Postal Service.
It's not that Mr. DeJoy's actions have been purely evil for all time. You know, I'm sure he's a nice guy in person, maybe a fun guy to have a drink with, and has done a lot of good for the university. Again, he's provided scholarships for several students. That should not be negated. But one's personal actions in the past do not negate their negative actions in the present. And there are severe negative actions that deserve consequences right now.
Deloitte says even though ELN Law, located in Greensboro, is separate from the main campus at ELN, students' voices still matter. The letter has 33 co-signers. All are first-year students at ELN Law.
Annemarie Bonner joins us live on Citroen Plaza with your Phoenix 5-day forecast. Annemarie.
Thanks, Brian and Margaret. As you can see, it's a pretty nice evening out here in downtown ELN. I'm out here with your Phoenix 5-day forecast. It's looking like it's going to be a little bit of a cooler week. Tuesday, tomorrow, it's going to be a high of 79 with a low of 55. Wednesday will be partly cloudy with a high of 80 and a low of 65. Thursday will be raining with a high of 73 and a low of 62. It's looking like there's potential for heavy rainfall in the evening, so just keep that in mind if you have plans. Friday will also rain with a high of 72 and a low of 51. Saturday, it will be partly cloudy with a high of 67 and a low of 47. As you can tell, temperatures are beginning to drop in the evening, so just keep that in mind as you head into the week. That's your Phoenix 5-day forecast. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Annemarie.
Coming up, see how the fire of the Carolinas is playing in a pandemic.
And how science labs have adapted to coronavirus restrictions.
You're watching Elon Local News.
This season, Elon's marching band isn't marching. COVID safety guidelines require students to stand 18 feet apart and stay stationary during practice. I spoke to band members about how these changes are affecting them.
Hey, I don't feel comfortable coming in and playing. That's a lot of people blowing a lot of air out.
Ann Williams is a section leader in Elon's marching band. She is not coming to in-person rehearsals because of safety concerns.
If it was just students standing there 18 feet apart, I'd still feel uncomfortable, but it'd be a little bit different. And bell covers and instrument covers are effective, but you're still exhaling and inhaling a lot.
Band director Jonathan Paquette said he spent all summer with his team brainstorming protocols for band rehearsal. Instead of finding all 68 members of band practicing in a room like this one, now everyone practices outside in their sectionals, which sophomore Ben Hawkins says helps and hurts the group.
There's its own benefit for that because you get to work on individual things, but when you're in your own section, you can't hear how you fit into the bigger picture.
No instruments are shared, and each student has an assigned position on the field where they must stay for the entirety of practice. Bell covers are required for all instruments, and all students must wear neck gaiters during practice.
We're trying to make sure that our students are safe. That is the number one priority. Okay? It doesn't matter if we can band. If we can't band safely, we shouldn't be banding.
Hawkins feels safe at practice, but is finding it harder to connect with his bandmates.
It doesn't necessarily strain the relationships, but I mean, it does make it a little bit more difficult to socialize the way you normally would.
Paquette is determined to keep the band together even though there aren't events to play for yet.
That's where that risk-reward assessment comes in. Is it worth the risk? And based on the guidelines and the policies, procedures that we have in place, we feel confident that we can mitigate COVID in band while giving the students a musical experience.
Margaret Faust, Elon Local News. Paquette says once COVID restrictions are lifted, the band will be ready to perform.
Lab classes face new challenges this fall as professors try to adapt their class model to the coronavirus pandemic, finding a way to provide a hands-on learning experience while keeping students safe. This challenge has forced both students and professors to get creative and step outside the traditional classroom into the outdoors. Gabriela Rivas de Leon has the story.
2 to 3 times a week, weather permitting, Elon sophomore Capri Buck and her 13 classmates head to Loy Farm for their agroecology lab. Students learn the science behind agricultural food production by harvesting their own plots, where they grow everything from carrots to kale.
When we're in the lab, we don't do much work except physical labor to our plots and testing to the soil. However, we apply what we learned from the lecture during the lab, so there is a balance there, and it's similar to other labs. You still learn, it's just a different setting.
As an environmental science major, interactive labs are crucial to Buck's education and her future outside of Elon. When classes went online last semester, she says she lost crucial time practicing skills that could help her in the future.
This year has been a lot different than last year because my Intro to Environmental Studies class was online for part of the semester, so I didn't get the full value and experience with that.
In addition to having lab on the farm, Buck's professor will also sometimes hold the lecture portion of the lab in the outdoor classroom at Loy Farms. Buck says she is interested in sustainable farming, and spending so much time on the farm has been beneficial.
I do think that agroecology, the lab itself, is a lot more beneficial during this COVID time than other labs out there, because I do know that other labs have an online portion and an in-person portion, which can be hard to balance, so I'm really glad that I took this lab over others.
Other lab students who would traditionally meet in the classroom are taking similar approaches. Catherine Perturzo's population biology, which studies the basics of genetics, evolutionary changes, and ecology, traditionally meet inside of a classroom. This year, the class meets outside.
It's definitely very hot outside, so we try to finish the lab as quickly as possible, but I still feel like we're really all comprehending the material. With microbiology lab, I wish we would have more time in the lab just because everything we're learning is so cool.
While Perturzo feels her labs aren't directly preparing her for her chosen field in healthcare. She appreciates the lengths the ELN Science Department is going to make classes as safe as possible.
One thing that I am glad I'm getting to do now while we're still on campus is my research. I'm doing biology research, and I'm doing this in the physiology department in their lab. I'm really glad that we are still on campus so that I have the time to work with the EKG machine and get some data recorded. I'm hoping that we're on campus as long as possible so that I can record as much data as possible.
For ELN, this is Gabriella Rivas-Delian.
Both students say they're grateful to be back in class inside or outside.
Up next, what a new tradition for ELN could look like. Student involvement is trying to start a new tradition here on campus. A semester-long scavenger hunt called the From the Flames Challenge encourages participants to complete unconventional challenges with the hopes to win a weekly prize. ELN Junior and Challenge Judge Liam O'Connor says From the Flames is the latest tradition to emerge from a dark time in the university's history.
If we go all the way back to Under the Oaks, why do we hold commencement under the Oaks? It was because of after the fire that happened on campus. So a lot of the best traditions that come from ELN are in the wake of a crisis.
The goal of this event is to bring the ELN community together and allow them to get to know ELN on a deeper level amid the coronavirus pandemic. Freshman and challenge participant Adafi Judge talks about how the challenges have gone so far and her thoughts on the hunt.
And we thought it might be a good idea to really get to know the couple of people that we have been hanging out with a lot more, to get to know them better, because we'd be hanging out with them a lot for the whole semester, and it kind of gave us an excuse to get together with people.
For details on all of these challenges and information about how you can start competing, look for an article in the Pendulum this Wednesday.
That's all the news we have for you this evening. Thanks for joining us.
For all the news you need to know when we're not on the air, visit our website, elonnewsnetwork.com.
And be sure to follow us on social media at ELN News Network.
Have a great week, ELN, and stay safe.